have victory. We will rise, we will stand and fight. We are free. We are free. Fight.
From the forges to the fields of gold, from the rivers to the northern cold, our hearts are bound, our flames the same. Haskaria,
Eternal name. Let the banners blaze, let the guild bells ring. Every hand and heart to the realm we bring. Through trial, toil, and sacred flame, we rise united, one and the same. This is who we are Haskaria. We hold our liberty, we are free. We have victory, we will rise, we will stand and fight. We are free, we are free.
Alright everyone, welcome back. Today we're diving into something that's pretty fun and honestly pretty simple. We're taking a look inside the Imperial Court of Haskaria. A lot of people hear Imperial Court and think it's some super intense royal council with fancy robes and 20 people blowing trumpets. And yeah, that sounds dramatic. But the actual structure is way more straightforward than people expect. The court is basically the core group of people and positions and offices that help keep everything running. The ceremonial roles, the leadership roles, and the main people who help organize and guide the nation behind the scenes. So in this video, I'm going to walk through each part of the court, what they do, and how they fit into the bigger picture of Haskaria. Nothing complicated, nothing formal, just a simple breakdown of how this side of our government works. So let's get into it. So the first thing, the Emperor, that's me. In Haskaria, the Emperor is the head of state and the head of government, and the person ultimately responsible for this whole project is going. If you're new to Haskaria, this may be the first time you're seeing me talk about it like this. So let me be really clear. This isn't just a costume or a fun little title. The Emperor exists because every nation needs a center of gravity. And in Haskaria, that's the Phoenix Crown. Obviously, this is not a Phoenix Crown right now. It will be one day. In the early phase of a nation like this, the Emperor stands up and does just a little bit of everything. I'm the one writing a lot of the documents, recording the speeches, planning the long-term goals, running the YouTube channel, working on the court structure like this, and trying to build an actual community around all of this. It's kind of like being a founder, a project manager, a storyteller, and the head of state all at once. And this isn't because I just want to hoard power, because at this stage there just aren't enough people to hand things off to yet. We're still laying the foundation. But underneath all of the practical stuff, there's a philosophy behind why the Emperor exists in Haskaria. The Emperor is supposed to represent renewal, the idea that you can lose almost everything, start again, and still build something worth living for. So when I call myself the Phoenix Emperor, it's not just edgy flair. It's a reminder that this whole nation is built on the idea that people can heal, rebuild, and create meaning out of what tried to destroy them. The Emperor is there to carry that flame when nobody else can see it yet. Day to day, my job is to set direction. I decide what we focus on first. Are we building media? Are we writing core books? Are we pushing towards new land like New Gideon? Are we tightening up the court structure? Somebody has to say this is the priority right now. And that somebody is the Emperor. I also act as the main voice of Haskaria. The one giving the addresses, explaining the vision, talking to other nations, and speaking on behalf of everyone who chooses to stand under this banner. This banner. In long term, as Haskaria grows, the role of the Emperor changes. The idea isn't that I sit on top of a pile of titles and micromanage everything forever. The goal is, as the Imperial Court fills out, as ministries gain real people, as citizens and nobles step into their roles, the Emperor becomes more of a guardian of the vision, the person who makes sure Haskaria doesn't drift away from what it was meant to be. So yes, right now, the Emperor is heavily involved in everything. Everything. But the whole point of having an Emperor in this system is to protect the heart of the nation, give it direction, and be the first one willing to carry the weight, so others have something real to join. Alright, so up next is the Imperial Family. This one is the most symbolic part of Haskaria, but it's also one of the most misunderstood. When people hear Imperial Family, they think it's all about bloodlines, drama, or royalty for the sake of royalty. That's not really how it works here. In Haskaria, the Imperial Family isn't just a bunch of titles, it represents stability, it represents continuity. It represents the idea that leadership isn't just a job somebody clocks into, but a responsibility carried over generations. The consort, whether it's an empress or an emperor, plays a huge part in that. Their role is less about politics and more about presence. They're the ones who stands with the sovereign, keeps the cultural side of the nation grounded, and helps with the ceremonial and social parts of public life. They're the heart beside the crown. Then there's the heir, the Primarch Prince. This is one of the most important roles. This is the one destined to carry the Phoenix crown after me. When he turns 18, he also takes the title King of Haskaria that I currently hold, which basically means he becomes the administrative head over the capital region. It's kind of like a training ground. Before he steps into the full role of emperor one day, he gets the chance to learn how to lead, make decisions, understand the people, and carry responsibility, without being thrown into the deep end immediately. It's preparation, and of course, anyone in the royal house, which could include princes, princesses, or other titled members, automatically become part of the imperial court. That doesn't mean they all have political power or major responsibilities, it just means that they're part of the cultural fabric of the nation. They represent heritage, they represent the ongoing identity of Haskaria. In a country built on renewal, the royal house is one of the clearest symbols that Haskaria isn't just a moment, it's a lineage, a future, and a story that won't die with one generation. When you hear me talk about the Imperial Family, don't think of it as some untouchable royal bubble. Think of it as the human side of leadership. The people who help carry the weight. The people who preserve tradition. The people who give the nation a sense of continuity. They're not rulers over the people, they're symbols for the people. That's the point. Next up we have the Imperial Household. Basically the people who help keep everything running behind the scenes. So the Emperor isn't juggling 1,000 things at once. Every nation, even in its early stages, needs a support structure. In Haskaria, that's what the household is. First role here is the Grand Chamberlain. Think of the Chamberlain as the person who keeps ceremonies, events, and official functions from turning into absolute chaos. If there's a ceremony to prepare, a visit to organize, an event to run smoothly, or something that needs to look official, the Chamberlain is the one to make sure that nothing catches fire. Metaphorically, hopefully not literally. They're the master of protocol, the organizer, the coordinator, the one who makes sure everything looks put together, even if it's two people in a folding table. Then we have the Imperial Steward. The steward is the one who helps with the day-to-day management, making sure tasks get done, schedules stay on track, documents are handled properly, and logistics make sense. All the practical stuff that isn't glamorous, but keeps the nation from falling apart. The steward is kind of like the inner manager of the court. If something needs attention, the steward makes sure it happens. And then there's the Imperial Herald. Probably one of the more iconic roles. The Herald is the voice of the crown. This is the person who makes announcements, introduces officials, reads proclamations, basically handles the public-facing side of communication. Specifically so I don't have to shout from mountaintops every time something happens. Historically, heralds were the messengers of kings. In Haskaria, they're the ones who make sure everyone actually hears what the emperor has to say. So here's the thing. The imperial household will definitely grow over time. We may add roles like a keeper of seals, or master of the pages, or assistants to various offices as Haskaria expands. But right now, this early in the nation's lifespan, the household stays pretty flexible. We add roles when they're needed, and we let the structure grow naturally as the community grows. So the household is basically the engine room of the imperial court, the people who keep everything moving smoothly in the background, especially while the emperor and the court handle the big decisions and direction. It's simple now, but it'll evolve as Haskaria grows. Alright, now let's talk about the ministries, basically the government departments of Haskaria. These are the big branches that handle different parts of national life. And yeah, I know hearing a long list of ministries might sound complicated, but it's actually pretty simple once you break it down. So first off, we have the Ministry of Defense. This is the one that deals with national protection, security planning, protocols, and everything related to national defense. Early on, it's mostly organizational, but as Haskaria grows, it'll shape the structure of things like the Phoenix Guard and any future civic defense program. Next is the Ministry of Health. This one sets standards for wellness, safety, and preparedness. Even small nations need basic guidelines for health. Emergency plans, medical recommendations, things like that. It's not a hospital system, it's more like the keeper of national well-being. Then we've got the Ministry of Innovation. This is the fun one. This department handles technology, research, future development, anything that pushes Haskaria forward. If we ever launch projects in tech, media, science, or infrastructure, innovation is the ministry behind it. Ministry of Religion oversees spiritual life and moral guidance, not in a controlling way, but in a cultural way. Haskaria has its philosophical core built on renewal, and this ministry helps maintain the ethical and spiritual identity that our nation is rooted in. The Ministry of Interior deals with internal affairs, things like land management, New Gideon development, administration, internal security, and long-term planning. Basically, if it concerns the well-being of the physical territory or the organization of the nation, Interior probably handles it. Then there's the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. This is the diplomatic arm of Haskaria. Internal relations, messages to other micronations and macronations even, communication with the League of Independent Nations, which I highly advise everyone, to join. It's a wonderful organization. It's made the difference between continuation and dissolving for Haskaria. It is what has seriously helped Haskaria's national development. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs is the bridge between Haskaria and the rest of the world. The Ministry of Labor comes next. This one handles citizen involvement, work structures, future guild alignment, volunteering, and civic contribution. It's basically about participation, how people help grow the nation. Then we have the Ministry of the Treasury. This one is pretty straightforward. It manages the national budget, the sovereign wealth fund, financial planning, and long-term economic health of Haskaria. Fun fact, we actually have it in our constitution that the Treasury has to maintain a balanced budget, and all debt must have a very clear plan for repayment, and it must maintain that payment in excess. So you must be able to repay it in more than the minimum payment, or else it'll not get paid properly and in time. So there has to be a very balanced budget, and surplus is heavily encouraged by the Constitution, and actually says if there is a surplus, that's put into the Sovereign Wealth Fund for more economic development and improved economic health. After that, we got the Ministry of Culture. They handle festivals, traditions, arts, music, holidays, ceremonies, and everything that makes a nation feel like a nation. Culture is the soul. Without it, a country is just lines on a map. There's also the Ministry of Intelligence. And no, that doesn't mean spies in the bushes. It's more about analysis, information management, situational awareness, and making sure the nation is informed and secure. And finally, there's the Office of the Imperial Guildmaster, the ministry that oversees the guild system. This ties into guildonomics, citizen skills, professional groups, and the economic identity of Haskaria. The Guildmaster keeps the economic backbone of Haskaria organized. Now here's the honest truth. Right now, most of these ministries are basically empty chairs. All of them are, essentially. In fact, the entire court is just a court of empty chairs. And they're all waiting for the right people to grow into them. And that's perfectly fine. When a nation is this young, you build the structures first, then fill it as the community forms. These ministries aren't just offices, they're placeholders for future leaders. As people join, as interest grows, as Haskaria expands, these departments will naturally find the right individuals to run them. So don't think of this as a giant government machine. Think of it as the blueprint for what Haskaria will eventually become. Alright, next up we've got the cultural roles in the Imperial Court. And honestly, these are some of my favorites. These positions aren't about politics or administration, they're about identity, creativity, and the story we're trying to build as a nation. The first one is the Imperial Laureate. This one is basically the official head of all the orders of laureates in the nation, and they typically specialize in whatever form of creativity they receive their own laureate. So they could be a court artist, a court poet, a court musician. They could also be a court engineer. They could be a court mathematician. They're essentially experts in their specialized field. Their job is to give Haskaria a voice in the arts and sciences. Nations need songs, poems, symbols, and stories, as well as the sciences, the STEM fields. The laureate helps shape the emotional and cultural and scientific side of who we are. Whether it's writing a national hymn, creating artwork, solving mathematics issues, building massive machines that revolutionize the empire. The laureate is the person who turns culture into something you can actually feel and see. Then we have the court historian. Every nation needs someone who remembers where it came from. This person records major events, keeps track of important documents, preserves speeches, and basically makes sure we don't forget our own history. When you're building something new, memory will always matter. Without someone writing something down, you'll end up losing the story you're trying to tell. The historian is the guardian of our timeline. Next is the Knight Commander. This role oversees the orders of chivalry, the knights, honors, medals, and ceremonial recognition we give to people. Knighthood in Haskaria is like receiving one of the highest national honors. It's not hereditary, it's earned. The Knight Commander makes sure those honors mean something, handles the ceremonies, and keeps the entire system of awards organized. And finally, the High Ambassador. Now, we talked a bit earlier about the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The High Ambassador is a little different. This is the senior diplomat, the person who represents Haskaria in official capacities, and speaks to other nations, and handles high-level communications and outreach. They're basically the voice of Haskaria in external affairs, especially when the Emperor isn't speaking directly. These cultural roles don't run the government, but they add depth, tradition, and personality to the nation. They're the ones who turn Haskaria from a structure into a culture, from an idea into a story people can belong to. Alright, let's talk about the nobility. And this is where Haskaria really starts feeling like Haskaria. Because unlike a lot of modern systems where nobility is just a ceremonial throwback, ours actually matters. It has real weight, real purpose, and a real part in how the nation functions. In Haskaria, the nobility makes up the House of Royals, which is one of 3 chambers inside the Elder Council. The House of Royals works alongside the Imperial Senate and the House of Assembly. They create national policy, approve laws, and help guide the direction of the nation. So yeah, the noble absolutely take part in governing Haskaria. They're not here to dress fancy. They're core part of the legislative system. There are two kinds of appointed nobility in Haskaria, and this is important, so let me break it down. First, there's territorial nobility. These are the dukes and duchesses of Haskaria. Of meaning they actually rule a province, a territory, or even a region within the empire when those become established. For example, when New Gideon becomes the first territory, the Duke or Duchess of New Gideon will be the administrative leader of that region, although the Emperor will be in charge of New Gideon being the capital province, so that's just an example. One day, Clearwater and other territories might exist, and the nobles of those places would run them as well. They have local authority, they manage their region, and they answer to the empire as a whole. Think of them kind of like governors, but tied to a royal system. Then there's the second kind, non-territorial nobility. What I call nobility in Haskaria. These are nobles who hold legitimate titles, they're fully part of the House of Royals, but they don't have land or a region under their direct control. They still have voting rights in the House of Royals, they still participate in legislation, they still play a major role in shaping the direction of the empire, they just don't govern a territory. It's nobility without land, but not without influence. And that's where the Founding Flame comes in. The Founding Flames will eventually become territorial nobility, once the first territories beyond New Gideon open up. But right now, they start as non-territorial nobility. Dukes and duchesses in Haskaria. But as the empire grows, they'll transition into territorial leadership. They'll help establish the first provinces, have administrative authority over them, and basically become the backbone of the empire's early political geography. And all of these together, territorial and non-territorial, sit in the House of Royals alongside the Emperor, the Imperial Family, and the head advisor. And that entire group forms one of the most important parts of Haskaria's legislative system. They vote, they debate, they shape policy, and they represent the long-term continuity of the empire. Nobility in Haskaria isn't decorative, it's generational leadership. It's continuity, it's responsibility. So yes, nobility in Haskaria isn't about being a figurehead. They're actual leaders. They help run the empire from day one, and their roles only get more important as the nation grows. But before we move on, there's one more role in the court that deserves its own spotlight. The head advisor. This is one of the most important positions in the entire system, because the head advisor is basically the emperor's right hand. In Haskaria, the head advisor fulfills a role that in other countries would look like a prime minister, a high chancellor, a vice president. They don't outrank the emperor, obviously, but they do handle a huge amount of the day-to-day leadership. They're the person the emperor talks to constantly. They help refine ideas, shape policy, manage direction, and they make sure all the gears in the government actually turn the way they're supposed to. What makes the head advisor different in Haskaria is that they're not just some political technician. They're part of the House of Royals, right alongside the emperor, the Imperial Family, and the rest of the nobility. They vote, they contribute to legislation, they act as a bridge between the emperor and the broader Elder Council. If the emperor is the vision, the head advisor is the translation, the person who turns big picture goals into real world steps. They also act as a stabilizing force. When the nation grows, when more ministries fill, when more nobles take their seats, the head advisor keeps everything coordinated. They oversee communication between branches, help resolve conflicts, and make sure the government isn't pulling in 10 different directions at once. And long term, as Haskaria gets bigger and more organized, the head advisor becomes even more important. They're the ones making sure the emperor's long-term vision stays aligned with actual policies that are coming out of the Elder Council. They're the balance point between leadership and structure. So at this point you might be wondering, why even bother building all of this? Why have an imperial court, ministries, nobles, advisors, and all of these roles laid out before the nation is even fully populated, or populated at all for that matter? And honestly, the answer is really simple, because structure matters. Haskaria isn't some disconnected hobby project. It's something I'm building to last. Something meant to grow, expand, and eventually become a real community. And if you want to build anything real, you have to create the framework before the people arrive. You have to dig the ditches before the rain falls. That's in the Bible. Look that up. If you wait until everything is crowded and chaotic, it's way too late to establish order. You wait until the rain falls to dig the ditch, you're not going to catch any water. So the court is that early structure. It's the skeleton of the rest of the nation can grow around. It also gives people clear places to belong. When someone joins Haskaria, I don't want them to feel lost or confused or like there's nowhere for them to plug in. If there's a clear court, clear ministries, clear roles, and a clear pathway for nobility or leadership, then people instantly know what part of the nation speaks to them. Maybe someone loves administration. Maybe someone loves diplomacy. Maybe someone resonates with the culture. Or maybe someone wants to step into local leadership someday. The court gives them a place to aim. And honestly, having structure makes the whole project feel real. It's one thing to say you're building a nation. A lot of people say that, especially in the micronational community. It's another thing to actually build out the government, the culture, the hierarchy, the roles, the responsibilities, and the long-term systems that make a nation a nation. When you see the court laid out like this, you can tell Haskaria isn't a weekend idea. It's something with direction, purpose, and a long-term vision. And the most important thing is, as more people join, they'll actually have roles they can step into. These aren't empty titles. These are real offices waiting for people. Real people. Future nobles, future ministers, future advisors, future cultural leaders. The court is the foundation that lets Haskaria grow into something bigger than just me. It opens the door for everyone who believes in the vision to take part in shaping it. So yeah, that's why all of this exists. It's not for just some show. It's for the future we're building. That's the Imperial Court. Nothing too wild or complicated. Just the backbone of how Haskaria actually runs behind the scenes. These are the roles, the people, the structure, the foundation that gives the whole nation something solid to stand on. If you enjoy this journey, and you want to see where all of this goes, make sure to subscribe, drop a comment, stick around. We are genuinely building something real here, step by step, one piece at a time. And as always, by God and crown, we'll have our home.
By God, we'll have our home someday. Our flame shall light the righteous way. The nation sworn to guard the free has bartered sons for fleeting gold. Its throne is clothed in treachery, its promise broken, bought and sold. Yet from the ruin shall arise a crown no tyrant can betray. The star ascends through darkened skies. By God, we'll have our home someday. By star and crown, by God's own way, we'll have, by God, our home someday. By fire's light, by faith we stay. We'll have, by God, our home someday.
Let others bow to fraud and lies, to hollow kings and faithless men. But Haskaria's flame shall seize our land. By God, we'll have our home someday.
By star and crown, by God's own way, we'll have, by God, our home someday. By fire's light, by faith we stay, we'll have, by God, our home someday. The martyr's cry, the father's dream, the mother's tears, the soldier's graves, all flow together as a stream, a living fire that none enslaves. Through mountains hide and oceans span, the banners blaze, the trumpets say, a people bound, a people planned. By God, we'll have our home someday. By star and crown, by God's own way, we'll have, by God, our home someday. By fire's light, by faith we stay, we'll have, by God, our home someday.
So lift the crown, so guard the flame. Let every foe behold with dread. For Haskaria shall bear its name. When empires fall, their glory fled.
Our destiny no chains can stay. Our star shall light the righteous way.
And all the world shall hear us say, by God, we'll have our home someday.
By God, our flame shall light the way. Haskaria's vow will never fail.